Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Monday afternoon. So I'm still waiting for Hogarth. I'm not sure what happened. I know that he was in Paris for the Olympics. I'm not sure if something happened. I'm just waiting to hear back from him. He definitely confirmed. So I'm not sure if something happened in the interim because it's not like him to just not show up. So if he comes in, during this live stream, I will just let him in. I can see, if he logs in, I can see, and I'll let him in. So I'm sorry about that, but I just hope all is well with him. Of course, we are in Mercury retrograde, right? So let me just say hi to a few people. Hello, Carolyn, Cosmic, Rose, Brenda, June, Marvel, Nancy, Mary Jo. Welcome, Sharon. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone that donated last night who attended my fundraiser that I had here on my channel live for cat and dog food for here. Oh, he just messaged me. Hello, delayed train coming on now. So give him a second. So we raised $400 for cat and dog food for the food pantry. So I am super excited. Thank you. I think I might make that a monthly thing. It's a much needed service. Hello, Zen Soul, and Patrice, welcome. So much to talk about, so much to look at as always, politically and, with our politics here in the US, but also with just everything that's going on in the world, the Middle East, Ukraine and Russia. It's never a dull moment. And you guys always ask me about what I'm drinking. So this is an aloe and ginseng drink. It's actually pretty good. It's not super sweet, but it's kind of like this bluish green color. But it has a lot of electrolytes, and it got really hot today. So I'm trying to do my electrolytes. You might hear Eddie meowing. I had to shut the doors and the windows because our neighbor decided to mow his lawn. So if you guys could just bear with us for a minute, I'd appreciate it. Hi, Christopher, Linda, Teresa. Oh, here he is. Let's see.
Hey.
Hello, Hogarth.
My goodness. Sorry for the delay, Diane. I've literally just come from my singing lesson. I had a singing lesson.
Awesome.
Here's the microphone. And the train that I was on was delayed by over half an hour. Oh, can you hear me? Can you see me?
There we go.
Oh, you vanished. I can't see you now.
Okay, wait. Got it. I just had to redo my AirPods.
Yeah, there we are. So literally, I'm like sweating.
Is it hot there?
It is, yeah, we're actually having today is one of the hottest days of the year today. So today is going to be 30. I think it's like 35 degrees, which means it's almost 100. It means it's almost 100. So it's absolutely. What are we live now? Are we live already?
We are live. Because I started saying hi to everybody that was trickling in and just chit-chatting and
Wait, give me a second. Let me come back. I need to one moment.
Yes, get yourself settled. Rose, it's life, we get it, right? I mean, that's the thing about doing lives, right? It's like when I was on with Adam last week and all of a sudden it just like glitched for a second. He was gone and then he came right back. And it's like, you know what? It's the joys of being live. There's not much you can do.
I'm back.
Hi, Ivana.
Oh. Well, yeah, I'm boy. Let me put the fan on. Actually, let me just get my fan.
Yes, yeah. Get yourself situated. We actually here the weather's been very strange here in New England too because we had a heat wave in the spring, which means that it was pushing 100 for 3 days straight, and that shouldn't happen here. but we're not getting the blizzards, and the hurricanes aren't making their way up. So the things that like we're used to and we're prepared for, but we're getting tornado warnings, which we don't get here.
Wow.
So climate change is real for sure.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I know, and it's so interesting that you should say that because I made some new friends recently, and some new friends in the spiritual community, and it's really quite interesting because even within the spiritual community, there are quite a lot of like climate change skeptics, and they're like, well, that's just blah blah blah. But the thing is, I always say to everyone, remember your childhood.
Right.
What was the weather like when you were a kid? And you're not supposed to be able to see dramatic weather change in your lifetime. Weather change is actually supposed to take thousands of years, sometimes hundreds of thousands of years.
No.
Like in London, I live in London. It very rarely snows in London anymore. Very rarely. And I remember as a kid, every year they used to have the in the UK, because we're obsessed with the weather because we get so many different seasons. And in the UK, there always used to be, annually, there would be a bet for a white Christmas. That doesn't happen anymore because they stopped coming.
Oh, yeah. We don't get them either anymore. We used to typically get it. And now it's like Halloween is here and you're still sweating. And like what we had, like, first of all, growing up, we had 4 seasons growing up.
Yeah.
And now in New England, everybody is just wearing the hoodies and the sweatshirts like year round because you don't know how to dress.
Wow.
Like everybody just keeps layering up because the weather is just so strange. It's changing like minute by minute, but we're getting weather patterns that, I mean, we had 2 shelter in places with tornadoes. Which in
New England,
right, very strange. But we're not getting the blizzards. We haven't gotten a hurricane for years. We usually get the Category 1 hurricanes, but we're not anymore. The leaves aren't even falling. So when people come to visit, they expect to see the leaves starting to drop in September, and now it's like, come Thanksgiving, they're still coming down because it's just simply too warm. So it's really, really changed.
My goodness.
So
well, it's been ages. It's been years since we've
I
collaborated. So I want to say thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me on, and I'm so glad that we're able to do this. And
me too.
And of course, whatever questions you have, just let me know. Literally, it's the seat of the pants stuff, guys. I literally came from my second lesson, and I was stuck on a train, and then there was someone trying to deliver something, or trying to check the electric meter for someone who doesn't even live here anymore, who hasn't lived here for like at least almost like 3 years. So it's all just been a little bit weird, just happening out. But anyway, made it now.
So here you are. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, there's just so much going on, right? I mean, like, pick a country, pick a topic almost. It's incredible. Like, we're kind of living in these unprecedented times where, like, up is down, down is up, and you don't know what to expect. But, one thing I've had like 2 other astrologers come on, and I'll ask you the same question I asked them. I have a lot of viewers watching these other astrologers that I've never heard of. So I tune them in, I watch, and if I wasn't psychic, I would be hiding under my bed because they are so scary. Like, the world is coming to an end, and look, we have a chart to prove it. And it's like, what? Like that, I mean, yes, I get things are going to be tumultuous. I understand that. But I am not getting that level of doom and gloom that some of these astrologers are saying, and both Vedic and Western, take your pick. What is like your impression of that? Is it just clickbait, or is it just because things are tumultuous?
Oh, good question. Good question. It's a combination. It's a combination of things. And really what this is all about, and what all of the astrologers are actually tuning into, is the Pluto return of the United States. So if we just take that as the as the groundwater, or if we take that, if we're making a stew or a soup, that's like the base of the soup, and all of the extra dramas are like the vegetables, the extra vegetables, or like it's like if we're making a clam chowder, or I mean for you it'd be a vegan one, but you know what I mean. The basic soup is this Pluto return. Now, why are all the astrologers talking about, even the Vedic ones? Because in traditional Vedic astrology, they don't count the outer planets. Now, as you know, I'm a neo-Vedic astrologer, so I do Vedic astrology, but I do count the outer planets. So I also look at Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Ceres, and Chiron. And the reason why I do that is because they're too important to leave out. The outer planets are what add the extra. They add, to be honest, they add the weird factor. Outer planet, yeah, they really do. They add the secret sauce. Like whenever I'm looking at someone's chart, and if they have a particularly unusual life, most of the time the outer planets are involved. Rahu and Ketu as well can do that. But so Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. So, and a return is simply when a planet just returns to its original place it was in the natal chart. So if we think of, for example, the Declaration of Independence chart, which is the classic one that many astrologers use, not all, but it works really well.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah. So if we take 4th of July, 1776, and we take 6:30 p.m. Now, there are debates over whether it was 10 past 5 or what have you.
Right.
But the 6:31 works great, particularly in Vedic, because it gives America a Sagittarius rising, a Sagittarius ascendant. And if you think of what is Sagittarius about and what is America about, it's about optimism, energy. It has a lot to do with spirituality and religion. We think of how much religion is a factor in the United States.
Oh yeah.
Huge. And it's very big picture orientated and not so much detail oriented. And America in general it's a huge country, it's a continent, it's very big picture. So Pluto was at around about 6 degrees and 48 minutes of sidereal Capricorn when that Declaration of Independence was signed. Now, for those that are sticklers, they'll be like, well, the Constitution wasn't officially ratified until later. However, the Declaration really was the birth of America as a concept, as a country. And that's what, of course, led to America, of course, separating from England. So it takes Pluto about 248 years to go one revolution around the sun. So if you think of 1776, and the Pluto return started in February of this year, because it takes Pluto about 248 years. So in 2026, if my maths is correct, America should be about 250 years old, which is basically one Pluto cycle. So when a planet completes a cycle and it comes back, what it means is everything that was in the preceding years has to be reevaluated, reassessed, recalibrated, and gone over again. Now, we're very familiar with returns. Everyone knows the Mercury retrograde, or the Mercury retrograde, which is a familiar one. We're in Mercury retrograde right now. And as you know, everyone goes, oh, the sky is falling down. Oh, it's Mercury retrograde. But it happens 3 times a year. It's very common. But when we have a Saturn return, for example, that happens once every 29 years. And that's much more significant. So think about the things that go through our minds when we're 28, 29, 30. Am I going to get married? Will I ever have a house? Am I going to buy a new car? It's all these things, big things of career. And we get another one again when we're 58, 59, 60. So the Pluto return for me is like the Saturn return, but for countries. So this is America's first. So what it means is
Ah,
everything that's happened in America for the last 250 years is now all what? Coming back up. This is why we're seeing a lot of the ish and the ugly and the challenges, all of this dark. Have you I'm sure, dark, because
oh
I
yeah.
I've watched your channel as well. I've seen what's been coming up in your cards, and you're like, why am I always getting the devil? Or
Right.
have you noticed how many times the devil card is coming up in everyone's
Yes.
reading?
Which is not normal for me because I usually try to look at the brighter side of things. I mean, I try to be as neutral as possible, but I also try to look for more of the positive. But even with me, it's like, yeah, that devil is like hanging out. You know, he's making himself known right now.
I've seen you pull like several times, and you're just like, he's back. That's the devil's
Here he
back.
is.
Yeah, so it's all of that subconscious. So Pluto deals with the collective unconscious of the whole collective, literally. So,
Mm,
and there are positive sides to Pluto. The positive side of Pluto is transformation, mea culpa.
mm,
It's about self-sacrifice, transcendence, transforming into something new. The symbol of associated with Pluto is the phoenix rising from the ashes. But we all
mm.
know what happens to the phoenix first, isn't it?
Right, right.
Crumbles
Yeah,
down and then it grows up. So I think
exactly.
that's what a lot of the astrologers are tuning into. But I think they're only looking at maybe those lower vibrations, and a lot of them are
Right.
catastrophizing. Yeah, that's what I call it,
They
catastrophizing.
are. And like
Because they're
they're
like,
getting so many views, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so many. And I read the comments, and I'm like, oh, people are just terrified because I actually think we're in for a better phase. Once the dust settles, I think
yeah.
things are going to get profoundly better.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And of course, there is always that element of free will, of course, as you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very important. So if we look, for example, if we think of like the political scenario that we're in now, I mean, this is absolute classic. This is vintage Pluto return, because Pluto's lower energies deals with, like, and particularly where he is in the sky, he's in Capricorn. So what does Capricorn deal with? Capricorn deals with governments, yeah, global
Mhm.
governments. It deals with big companies, big pharma, infrastructure systems, top-down structures, hierarchy, all of this stuff. And this is why you're seeing all of this happen to what? All the governments around the world. Because as you know, you have Western astrologers on your channel as well. And of course, in Western astrology, they're 24 degrees ahead of the
Right.
astronomical placements of the stars. So they will be talking about Pluto in Aquarius, for example. But
Yes.
his physical body is in Capricorn. And when you look at the world, it makes sense because you notice all the what? Governments around the world seem to be going through this phase of, are we moving to the right? Are we going to become a bit more fascist, or is it going to become more liberal? Have you noticed Europe?
Mm.
There's been a big flirtation there. Obviously, things in America, but also South America as well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
because it's, indeed, thank you. And because it's America's first Pluto return, it's almost like the stage lighting and the drama is amped up.
Mm. Mm.
So what we're getting a lot of melodrama, and now we've got
Yes.
this big contrast. So if we look at Trump, as you know, who I call Duck L'Orange, we look at Trump, for example, and what
But
he
he's becoming, can I
represents.
just interrupt and say he's
Mm,
becoming less orange?
yes,
If you
yes,
have been
I've
seeing
noticed.
him, I I have a theory.
Oh,
I
why is
don't know.
that?
I don't know if you've thought about this because every time I see him, he's getting lighter and lighter, and he's going back to just being a Caucasian male. And
Rather than Oompa Loompa. Yeah.
right, um, and because my prediction is, I did a remote viewing on him. I keep seeing him clutching his chest, falling down sick. Now, whether this is real or fabricated, I can't quite tell, because I think with him it could go either way. I don't think the Republican Party truly wants him there. I think this is a nightmare scenario for them. They're stuck with this guy now. Now they're stuck with Vance, or whatever his name du jour is.
My God.
And the stories, I mean, I have to cover my cat Annie's eyes to, before she sees the Vance stories. Dear God. I mean, these people are out of their minds. But I am wondering if they're trying to make him look a bit sicker and sicker and sicker, because he's looking more frail, more pale. I saw him just the other day giving a speech, and he's literally doing like this with his hand.
Wow.
He kind of appeared to like freeze up for a few seconds. And I'm like, but with him, you don't know what's real and what's orchestrated. And so I'm like almost feeling like either spirit or the powers that be at the Republican Party are getting ready to pull the chain on him.
Well, I'll tell you something very, very interesting. And this was ages ago. So there was a prediction I made. I mean, it was a while ago, but it seems like another lifetime now. But it was a prediction I made, because so much happens now, doesn't it? So I made this prediction, in November 2021. Remember that?
Oh my
November
God.
2021.
Oh my God.
And at that time, the consensus, the belief was that, Trump was going to go into jail, prison, etc., all of this stuff. And the accountability wasn't coming. And I said to people, look, you may not like the sound of this, and really people didn't. And I said the accountability for him won't start until October 2023. Because in Vedic astrology, we have this thing called a dasha system, where certain planets become dominant. And I could see when he went into, because he's now in his Jupiter dasha, which is a very lucky dasha, by the way. It was planet Jupiter that brought Trump the presidency, just so you know. Planet Jupiter. And when you're looking to see who's going to become the leader of a country, particularly a big country like America, which actually has a Sagittarius ascendant, which of course belongs to Jupiter, Jupiter will often decide who the leader of the country is. And when Trump was up against Hillary, his Jupiter was stronger. It was better on the day. And he went into his Jupiter dasha, I think it was a day or two either before or just after the election. So that was, and Uranus did it as well, which was the sudden shock. Trump is now in a very tricky, and I've said this before to people, really quite a dangerous phase in his life. Because he's now in Jupiter K2, which I call snip snip. K2 is the south node of the moon. Believe it or not, and I read this from my book, K2 deals with weirdos. Literally, the south node of the moon deals with weirdos.
Oh no!
Yeah, strange people, unusual circumstances. It can deal with lone snipers, people that plot things in their basement. K2 as well can also deal with losses and cuts in money. This is the shadow side. So I said, this is when Trump is going to start facing losses and things against his money. What happened in October? It all started to, you know what? We've just had the recent assassination attempt against him, which was only a matter of weeks ago. And it's
assassination.
You know what I mean? Like, such is the news now. That is now, that's old news. And I can see that K2 is stalking Trump via J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance is very K2 as well. Strange, unusual. Geeky is not always a bad thing. K2 can deal with research and stuff. But you see how J.D. Vance has got this odd thing about him. And now there's all the pictures of him turning up where he's dressed in drag and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, so wait a minute. Nothing wrong with being dressed in drag, but aren't you kind of anti this, anti that? If you don't have a child, you can't vote. But if you've got 12 kids, that means 12 extra votes. madness.
It is. It's scary. Yeah. But I think there could definitely be some shakeups before the election. I don't think Biden is well. I don't think Trump is well. I think, we're talking about two older men. I think there's lots of variables. I think lots of things could happen. But yeah, I still feel good about Kamala winning, and I feel good about Tim Walz.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you something else. A video, I can't remember, it must have been last year, I did this, and people were asking me to do an in-depth dive into Trump and to Biden. And I said, guys, this is I think maybe it was my 2024 predictions. And I said, guys, expect the unexpected, because Uranus is a very significant planet. It deals a lot, not only with physical earthquakes, but political earthquakes. And he's changed signs recently. He's now in sidereal Taurus. Of course, in Western Tropical, he was there earlier. But he changed signs on the 1st of June. And I said, guys, get ready, because there's going to be a lot of political earthquakes.
Right.
Because Taurus deals with values, and it deals with, literally can deal with the earth, but it also deals with education, speech, money, all of this stuff. And anyway, when I was looking at Trump's chart and Biden's chart, I said, guys, there could be a scenario where neither man becomes president. Neither. Now, I didn't say it too often, because people were getting spooked, because they were like, oh, don't say that, because that means Joe Biden's not going to be part of the race. And I said, yeah, but Trump may not be there either.
Right.
Yeah, indeed, because he's going into a very critical time, Dianne, which is even more potentially tricky than the Jupiter K2 he's going in now. On the 29th of September, Trump is going to go into his Jupiter-Venus dasher. So you can imagine, like, he's in the backseat car of Jupiter's car, and Venus is the driver. You can imagine it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you do is, in Vedic astrology, you look to see what houses Venus rules, depending on the ascendant, and you look to see where she sits. So for anyone that is a Leo rising, Venus will always rule the 3rd house of communication. It's very important for Trump, isn't it? And the 10th house of career. In J.D. Vance's chart and Trump's chart, Venus goes to the 12th house. Now, this is really interesting, because the 12th house, the shadow side of the 12th house, can deal with losses of all kinds.
Right.
So if you imagine, when he goes into his Jupiter-Venus, it means his Venus will become activated in the chart. So imagine Venus starts doing this, and any planet she's with will also be activated, and the houses that she rules. So that means when he goes into his Jupiter-Venus, that means all of his communications, 3rd house, even his hands, the ability to do things with one's hands. Isn't it interesting? Because you mentioned that his hands started shaking.
I noticed for the first time his hands were shaking, and I never noticed that before.
Yeah, because the 3rd house deals with the hands. So it deals with hands, speech, education, travel, all those kind of things. Commerce of all kinds. 10th house deals with the career. But Venus goes to the 12th, which can deal with endings. So we could be seeing some potential endings, but it could also deal with, the 12th house also deals with exile. So that's why I said he may still try and flee, or he may try and exit stage left. It also deals with prisons and with hospitals and losses.
Yeah.
Venus also deals with women. And I've always been saying, and I think you've been saying the same as well, Trump is going to be brought down by a woman, but I thought it was going to be Liz Cheney or Ivanka. I think it's looking increasingly like it might be Kamala. And isn't it interesting that J.D. Vance has his Venus in the 12th house as well?
Yes, right. Yes, I've heard that. So, yeah, really crazy. So all right. So before the 29th, we have the 18th, which is where he goes before another woman, Judge Tanya Chutkin.
Oh.
And he has his sentencing coming up.
just in a few weeks, with the New York money hush case, like that whole thing, fraud, and I don't think it's going to go well for him, but I don't think like they're throwing him in prison and throwing away the key either.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense of like how that may go with the whole Stormy Daniels situation? And
it's a really good question. And one thing I should also caveat as well, when I gave that very specific time, the 29th of September is when he officially goes into Jupiter Venus. However, it starts a few weeks before. So in one of my prior videos, I said from August, I said to people from August, the energy of that Venus in the 12th house will start getting stronger, because you can imagine it's like tidal. It's not like switching on and off a switch, as you can imagine. And also with the tarot, do you notice how when it comes nearer to the time, it can become more sharply focused, whereas when it's further away, it can sometimes be a bit more diffuse. It's like that with the planets. So what it means is, as August develops and as September comes along, that Jupiter-Venus energy is going to start kicking in all the more. And isn't it interesting? He's facing so many of these female judges. Venus.
Right.
Venus also rules the sign of Libra, which is also associated with legalities, judges, all of this stuff. It's also business and trade, but it also deals with legalities. So there is an oversupply. What's also interesting, the 12th house also deals with bed pleasures.
Oh,
so you see how
no.
So you see how
Stormy.
the Stormy Daniels. You see how the Stormy Daniels. Also, as well, the 12th house can deal with clandestine things. I sometimes call it the house of royalties, because it can deal with indirect money. They can also deal with hidden money from overseas.
Right.
Yeah. Think of that. There's the things that come back recently with the Egyptian Prime Minister.
Yes.
And let's not forget as well, wasn't it the case that Trump used to be involved with the Miss World competitions?
Yes.
Venus,
that's true.
Women.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of women that, and I may have misspoke because I saw somebody say that it wasn't Judge Chuck and it was Judge Merchant. But you know what? Quite frankly, at this point, there's so many court cases coming up. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, oh my God, there is so many. And the thing is, like I always say, Kamala's running to be president. Trump is running to stay out of jail.
Stay out of jail.
So all of his cronies stay out of jail. Like they're running for two very different reasons. So like no matter which judge and when, it's like even if he evades this, well, there's still that. And if he evades that, well, there's still this over here. Like there is so much to unpack. And I don't think he has a chance of ever getting into the White House again.
You can imagine as well, if you think for his opponent, because it's extraordinary, because Kamala in many ways is his ultimate nightmare all wrapped into one. Because if she wins, now, because of course we're hoping she wins, and it's not guaranteed, folks, as we know, let's not be complacent. The planets are too volatile at the moment, but let's assume that she wins.
Yeah.
And Trump stays in the country. That means he will not only be dealing with the president-in-chief because of what the SCOTUS has done. She will not only be president, she will also be queen.
Right, complete immunity.
She will also be queen, and she's also a prosecutor. So she will have every single tool at her disposal to lock up not only Trump, but every single one connected with him. And I think this is why people are starting to distance themselves. They'll be, we know they're crazy, but really, do they want to sit with this sinking ship? We'll have to see.
No, but how crazy that he picked that song by Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, and now she's filing, a lawsuit against him because she did not give permission for him to play that at a rally. But who plays a song at their rally about the Titanic sinking? I mean, so now you have a Canadian that's irritated with you. Like Americans weren't enough. Okay, let's get the Canadians in and let's liken my rally here to the sinking of the Titanic. I mean, think about when they play it and why out of all songs?
Wow. Do you know what? That's really interesting because as you know, recently in the UK we had our elections.
Yes.
And of course the Tories went on to lose dreadfully, which everyone knew anyway, but went on to lose dreadfully. But one of the things he launched, one of his early days of launching the campaign, he went to Belfast and he went to the same place where they put together the Titanic. And everyone was like, are you joking? Are you honestly launching your campaign at the famous yard where the ship was manufactured, which famously sunk?
What
also
is
as
wrong?
well, I know, it's remarkable. Also as well, planet Neptune, because Neptune takes 164 years to go around the sun. Neptune is now back in sidereal Pisces, and we're now back in the same time frame when the Titanic sank all those years ago. So do you see how the politicians can't seem to help themselves by going into these metaphors? So I'm sure he wanted it to mean my heart will go on, I'm a brave heart, but everyone knows this is actually a very sad song, and it's about endings.
Yes, right. I just being like that crazy single cat lady that JD Vance hates, I went out of my t-shirt, my cat Annie endorsed it. I mean, but to say that we're sociopaths, it's like, really? And then his wife tried clarifying it and saying, well, he didn't mean all women without children, only the ones that didn't actively try. And I'm like,
it's like, that's less insulting, is it? That's less insulting.
But I mean, there is a great meme though that somebody put together. It's like a little video where they're playing the song, and Trump is trying to hold on to the door there floating in the ocean, and the cat is scooting him off. I'm like, that'd be a cat.
You can't make it up, and this is what a Pluto return in many ways is about. Things can become so extreme that it's almost cartoonish. Do you know what I mean?
It is. It doesn't seem real.
Cartoonish. It's like, is this really happening? And I was saying on my show the other day, I said a lot of Trump and the GOP are now beyond parody. You don't have to think up of funny things to say about them. You just do playback. You just play back their language and you just go, oh my goodness. So this is what we're seeing. So in many ways, the fight between, or for the soul of America, which is now between Trump and Kamala, in many ways is talking about the duality of Pluto in many ways. So Trump in many ways and his acolytes are representing a lot of that dark, heavy energy, wanting to take everyone back to the past, the totalitarianism, the dictatorship, the I'll be a dictator on day one, all of that stuff. That's very Plutonic. But then in a way, Kamala is representing the new hope, the transformation. Still intense, because she's still obviously a very determined and intense woman.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, because otherwise she wouldn't be able to get where she got to. But she's talking about, have you noticed how she's talking about renewal, rebirth, wanting to talk about the positive transformation. So for me, as an astrologer, I'm seeing these energies of the outer planets play out, and I can see the polarity. And it really is now very much binary choice now for people to make, irrespective of if they like Kamala or not. And now, of course, she's now become very popular because she's at last had a chance to show herself. But
Right.
it really is a binary choice. Are you going to choose ineffectively what is darkness and regression under Trump and Project 25, which is just
Terrifying.
like, you're like, oh my goodness? Or will America choose hope and opportunity and transformation and common sense things? Because a lot of the policies that they're coming up with, they aren't so crazy radical. You know, they're talking about affordable childcare and sick pay when you're ill, yeah, which is amazing. But
Yeah.
this is common. Like in Europe, we've had that for decades. Many countries have that. So, and it's not to do the you know, the camera and waltz down, not at all. It's just nice to hear big important politicians talk about bread and butter issues and not be talking about,
Right.
you know, Pizzagate or, you know,
Right.
Stark or, you know, childless cat ladies and what. And you're just like, you know, normal stuff.
You'll appreciate this as an Englishman. So I only take one medication, and you know, and since like I've had all these surgeries and stuff, I have to take hormones, which is pretty not really expensive. I mean, because it's kind of like mainstream, and I don't take anything fancy. But so the way my doctor wrote it being now, the Americans listening are not going to think twice about this. You're going to be like, what? So they didn't like my health insurance, that is, didn't like that my doctor wrote it by the month. You can save money if you write it for 90 days at a time. So my doctor was like, okay, fine, we'll write it for 90 days. But then it was like this huge amount of money. And so I asked the pharmacy, I said, what would it be if I just paid cash? They said it would be $24. And I said, $24 for the 1 month or for the whole 90 days? They're like, for the whole 90 days, it would just be $24. So I can use my health insurance, pay a few $100s, or just pay cash and get it for 24. And I literally can't function without this medicine. I get extremely sick. So I have to have it. But yeah, that is like our logic over here. Isn't that insane?
It's just, it just boggles the mind, and it's like, particularly as well, you know, I'm from the UK, you know, as you know, English, and of course our next door neighbours are Europe. I was in Paris recently,
right?
And I took the train. Yeah, I took the train to Paris. Yeah, we just built a little thing under the channel. I mean, how wonderful! And it's actually the first time I really enjoyed Paris. But like in the UK, we have very, very strict rules and regulations around advertising, pharmaceuticals, etc.,
right,
and stuff like that. And there's this curious thing in America where per capita, America spends more than any country in the world on medical products, etc., yet it's still statistically one of the sickest places in the world, and many people can't afford like healthcare. So for example, if we take aspirin, so how much is aspirin in the United States? I understand, is it about $10 or is it what is it?
Probably about $10 a bottle.
Right. So like if you think of like aspirin, yeah, $10. In the United Kingdom, it is 69 pence. 69 pence for aspirin. You go to the supermarket and they have their own brand of aspirin, and it's like 69p. Or maybe you might have to pay £1.29, and people be like, £1.29 for aspirin? Yeah.
Oh, see, and we're just happy that we can get it because now it's like everything has to have a prescription, which means you have to go to the doctor. I mean, you know, and oh my gosh, like I've had this talk in membership with a lot of my female members, you know, like how many of you have had these horrible experiences with some of these like white male doctors? So like when I was having hot flashes, what does the doctor prescribe me? An antidepressant.
What?
And I said,
oh, please. That's completely wrong. That's completely wrong. It's
I'm like, you're depressing me, but I was like, I was like, I'm getting hot flashes. I need hormones. But there's something to be made, though. I mean, that's the thing. It was one of the newer ones where they'd get a kickback, and it's like, yeah. So before you know it, you go to the doctor because you stubbed your toe, and then you come out with like a prescription for all these fancy new drugs that has nothing to do with your toe, but they make a kickback. And so, one of the things I really hope we change in this country is our healthcare system, and
Yes.
because I mean, we literally now. My husband has a great job. We have good health insurance, but we're paying through his health insurance almost $1,000 a month. And we have copays. If I go to the emergency room, it's $300 on top of that.
It's just like you can imagine for someone in the UK where, pioneered the NHS, universal health care,
Yes.
which basically has been adopted by every self-respecting developed country in the world. And the reason why is because even though it's paid for in general taxation, you save money. Because guess what? Surprise, surprise. When the majority of people have access to free healthcare at the point of need. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some private parts and all of this kind of stuff. And in the UK, it's a little bit more complicated than it was before. But essentially, you're not having to pay for the ambulance to take you to the hospital. Let's put it that way.
Oh, it's so expensive.
Yeah. So you can imagine when it's free at the point of need, what it means is people will see and go to the doctor sooner before it becomes something catastrophic. Because obviously in the States, if you don't have health insurance, you are not wanting to go to that hospital. So very often when people go, they're in a state of intense crisis, emergency. They need even more medication than maybe they would have needed before. When maybe a prescription of aspirin, for example, at the right stage in their illness may have been enough to kind of prevent all sorts of, kind of things. And I think and maybe this is where I hope that this Pluto return in the United States will just keep churning the collective, where more and more people are just looking at things and going, you know what, this system doesn't work. It seems to only work for the Plutocrats. That's where we get plutocrat from.
Right.
I'm hoping, that now with this 250-year cycle where America is going through its first Pluto return, it means everything in American society is going to be reevaluated now. Everything, and I think Kamala is part of that. But I see it very much as a beginning of a much broader conversation and a much broader and deeper journey that America needs to go on over the next, 10, 15, 17 years, for however long Pluto is in the sign of sidereal Capricorn. So, yeah.
I'm hopeful. And I see someone saying, they actually are on an antidepressant for hot flashes and it works. And it's like, here's the thing, as a dementia practitioner, I can tell you, yes, psych drugs can have side effects that can help with like your stomach and, a variety of things. But do you really want to rewire your brain for something that and once you rewire it, sometimes it doesn't go back. That's the other thing I can tell you. That was the whole issue with my mom getting so sick and whatnot, and eventually actually passing from it. Sometimes once you rewire your brain, it's rewired. And, I just have to wonder how many times we do that to men here. If a man is having some sort of problems with his hormones, it's like the knee-jerk reaction, oh, you need an antidepressant.
Yeah. And I would say the knee-jerk reaction is no. Men are not put on antidepressants. You're given blood tests to actually measure your testosterone to see how much you have or you don't have, and then you're prescribed accordingly. So, there's a lot of that stuff as well that needs to kind of come through. So I think what we're seeing now is this contrast. For me, it's still the Pluto energy. One side is manifesting as Kamala and transformation, and the other side is what Trump, represents. But just as you say, there's a lot to come out in the wash, guys. So yes, she's doing well, but she's got to be able to maintain that through all the way through November. And we also have to acknowledge as well, there are those darker aspects. There are a lot of people out there that do not want to see a woman in power. Look what happened to Hillary.
Oh,
and
I know.
And Kamala is black and Indian. So
Right.
It's like, wow.
Well, it's interesting because, her emails. Okay, so now that it appears Iran has leaked a lot of 45s, emails, having to do with his campaign, are we going to start leaking those out to the general public? And are we going to be having, him sitting there, being questioned for 11 hours straight? Something tells me no. I don't think he could sit there for a lot. I mean, he was falling asleep at his own campaign rally. I mean, I don't think he could sit there.
I mean, are his emails even worth reading? Because it's like I was saying on my show the other day. I said, what else could Iran have found that A, he's either not sold already, and B, that's not already known, because it's like he has so compromised America in terms of its security. Most of the big countries, in terms of their espionage and stuff like that, they know everything already. Anything in his email, I think it's him just was his emails hacked? It seems they were. How much does it matter? I would say not very much. And it's for him to kind of be like, oh, they hacked my emails. And it's like, yeah, but what about all of those documents you had stacked up to your ceiling in your bathroom, Mr. Trump, which were super, super top secret? And you're talking about Iran. For me, it's like Iran raided the sock box. Yeah? It's like they broke into the sock box. Or they went into the place where the cat toys were. You're just like, really? All you had to do was go to the bathroom. All you had to do was show up as a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and you could have read as many documents as you wanted.
And what is he going to do? Talking about Mar-a-Lago, September 18th is going to be here before we know it. He has like those 34 felon counts. He won't be able to hold a liquor license. And in the US,
really?
you can't transfer a liquor license. So he can't be like, well, Melania will just have it. You can't transfer them. So all these golf courses and hotels and venues that he owns, he won't be able to sell liquor, right? So that's like, I'm seeing as that's going to be a huge problem for him, before we know it.
Do you see that's the K2? Do you see the K2?
Snip.
Because K2 is not gonna give up as a planetary energy, because the nodes of the moon, they're very extreme anyway, and they are known as malefic. They are known as cruel. But just because a planet's cruel, it doesn't mean it doesn't give good results. So K2 actually works extremely well for people that are very spiritual. So say like for you, Dianne, if I remember correctly, I think you've got Rahu in the first house, K2 in the seventh. So that can literally mean the seventh house isn't only just like business partners, marriage partners, and stuff like that. The seventh house is also our relationship with the outside world. So what that can literally mean is it can mean having a spiritual relationship with the public, or being known to the public for some kind of spiritual kind of work. Because that's what K2 at his best really does. He's known as the moksha karka, which means liberation from this world. So K2 is very otherworldly. So K2 is all those things like astrology, channeling, particularly as well, people that have passed, things that are dead is very, very K2. Of course, astrology, I've got K2 in the 8th house. It helps me so much with my astrology, my tarot work. But spiritual people use their K2 naturally. When you're someone who's excessively materialistic like Donald Trump, what K2 will do is it will snip things away, cut things away from the material world in order to spiritualize that person. So you could see K2 almost took his life, grazed the ear.
Yep.
And irrespective, because some people are like, well, it wasn't a bullet, it was a shard of glass, whatever. It doesn't matter. He was on the stage and he was being shot at. And I would dare anyone to put themselves in the same position have someone shoot at you and go, oh, it was nothing. Yeah. Just think about it, just
It's
simple
true.
things. So when I looked at that, and when I was looking at the star Algol, where a lot of this energy was, which deals with beheadings, decapitations,
Right.
so it would affect Trump and it could affect Biden as well, because it means someone has to maybe step off the stage or is removed from the stage in life. And we saw both things happen, didn't we, around that time? Biden chose to step down, which was the right thing for him to do. And Trump almost lost his life. And they weren't fake bullets, as we know. Like, let's not forget, we need to respect people died.
Right.
Yeah? People died and had life-altering injuries. So, and if he'd actually been killed, it would have actually been a lot worse. Because you know what would happen, Diane? They would have
martyred
him. It would have been, our Jesus is dead. They would apparently getting little drops of his blood off the stage. And they've been selling it. So imagine if he'd actually died on the stage, you would have had American cardinals appealing to the Pope for Trump to be canonized.
Right.
Can you imagine?
No, I agree. Right afterwards, because you know how he was doing like the fist pumps as like the Secret Service was trying to get him down, right? So they took the picture of the fist pumps and they put it on a side of sneakers, like they're like kind of like Converse sneakers, and they're selling them for like $300. So if you want the sneakers, you can purchase them. So yeah, you're right. He would have been made a martyr, and that would have been, worst case scenario, I think, for all of us. And then, oh Lord, JD Vance would be, moved up and probably RFK put in, and that would be one hot mess.
And Kamala would not have had her opportunity to rise.
Right.
So we see everything happens for a reason, or as I used to be told, it's a bit old school, but it goes like, the Lord works in mysterious ways his wonders to perform. Yeah. Assuming, they assume that the Lord is male, but you know what I mean? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, he missed. And there was I'm sure you saw as well, there was actually quite a lot of shadow and quite a lot of nasty that came out. And I think it was unnecessary because we didn't need to go there. But now we see, look, did you see the thumbs up that just appeared on your screen?
I did not do that. So I think Spirit's saying, you're right.
Right.
My hands are here.
Right, there you go. You see, confirmation. Do you know, sometimes this happens when I'm live with my clients. Sometimes I get fireworks happen on the screen as well. But anyway, so I think, that was a thumbs up from Spirit saying, yes, a lot of people did go into shadow and they didn't really think out the full consequences of if he'd actually been assassinated. It would have been far, far worse. There would have been all sorts of chain reactions. And Kamala would never have had this opportunity to rise, to present herself to the American people. All of the MAGA people would be saying, Biden did it, and there would have been, imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene, blah, blah, blah. It would have been
Lord.
cacophony. But now he managed to escape death. K2, he wasn't a good shot. The guy wasn't a good shot.
Right.
That's why he couldn't get into shooting school. So it was grazed or missed or glass, whatever. And now we see it's old news. Kamala and Waltz are ascending. And it's almost as if that thing with Trump didn't even happen, which obviously really annoys him. So anyway, I don't want to...
Right. Yes. No, you're right. Because, he's still holding on to that. That was his big moment. But I just kind of see his energy just going down. Like by the time we get into September, I feel like the wind has been knocked out of his sails. And I'm sort of not feeling him really much in October, come the election, November. It's sort of like he's just disappearing. His energy just feels like it's going. I feel like there's not a lot for me to read on with him at that point. But I'm getting kind of those feelings with Biden too, that his energy is just going. And these aren't death predictions. It's just I feel like they're either just stepping away or it's like they're just, the energy's moving off to the side somewhere, and they're entering a different stage of their life. And I think we're going to be a very different people come election day.
Yeah, it's gonna be so. I mean, this is truly one of the most dynamic times, not only in global history, but of course for America in particular, because as far as I'm aware, America is the only country, from what I understand, that is about 250 years old. So you guys are the only ones that are having a Pluto return, because the country has to be at least 248 years old. And America is the only one that's in that ballpark. France was already established. It was having its revolutions. Obviously, England and London's been around since Roman times and stuff like that.
Right.
So we see this is a very unique position. And as that Venus gets stronger, because when a person has Venus in the 12th house, sometimes it can translate, particularly if the person's in shadow, it can literally translate as losses via women. And we know the female electorate in particular is going to do so much. You know, if we think of Roe versus Wade and all that is at stake, we have Kamala there, but you know, all the other prominent females as well will all be doing their part. And it's going to be very hard for Trump to escape this energy, because that's how this dasher system works. Venus is going to be driving the car, and she's going to be driving it from the 12th house. So again, it could either be prison, it could be hospital, exile, or endings, or a dissolving. And I think this is also what we're tuning into. The 12th house is a very dissolving energy. It also has the energy of Pisces, which is also has the energy of Neptune. So do you see him using this metaphor of the Titanic, or the song from Titanic? For me, I'm just like, wow, that's his 12th house singing to him realizing, you know. So we'll see. Anyway, I know.
Oh my gosh!
We're just
yes,
over
we're over an hour. But I should mention, you did write a book. You know, if people want to read it, how can they find it?
Oh, thank you. Here it is. Thank you. It's called The Candid Guide to Neo-Vedic Astrology. There we are. It's all in there. That's the paperback. It's obviously out in Kindle and hardback as well. And it's very relatable. So basically, planets are people. In there, you can find out about your brothers, your sisters, husband, wife. Yes, so for you, Dianne, if I was reading your chart again, when I look at Jupiter, that will be your husband. Yeah, do you see? That's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff like that. So thank you.
Love that.
It's done very well, and it's had amazing reviews. So I honestly,
awesome.
So grateful. So yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, like we said, it's been over an hour, so we have to let people go. But thank you for coming on. We'll have to do this again, hopefully when it's not so hot for you.
So I'm right next to the fan. And apologies, guys. Sorry, I was running a bit late there. It just all went a bit weird at the end, but it was so nice to be back and collaborate again. So thank you so much for that. And yes, I would love to be back on the show. And likewise, you're welcome on my platform as well. So thanks for having me back. It was a pleasure.
You are welcome. Bye, everybody. Have a good week.
All right. Bye.